Hi, everyone. My name is Mimi Loftus, and I am the Director of Education for Creatorwood. I've been working with Michael to create this AI Director Accelerator course, which is going to be amazing. I am obsessed with this company. It's fascinating what we're doing, what we can do. When I think back to September to now, the changes are just remarkable. So very, very excited. Okay, so we're talking today about the rhythm of story, pacing, and visual narratives. For those of you who don't know what we're doing today, something to keep in mind, pacing is not technical, it's emotional. Yeah, that's the thrust of this presentation today. Okay, so pacing to me is the heartbeat. It can kill or keep an audience engaged, right? And as an editor, as a storyteller in film and video, editing is the storytelling. You have to tell your viewer what to feel. So how do we do that? Well, let's take a look at these things. We've got rhythm, we've got tempo, and we have pacing. Rhythm and tempo for my musicians. This is going to make a lot of sense, right? It's the pattern, the structure. If you think about drums, that pattern and structure drums, that's where we get our rhythm. For the tempo, yeah, that's the speed. And then so pacing becomes that emotional journey that both rhythm and tempo together will create. All right. So why does it matter? Well, if it's slow, and intimacy. So slow pacing doesn't necessarily mean boring, right? It can be intentional as long as you're being intentional with it to create that suspense and intimacy. Fast pacing, obviously, that's going to be that energy and even a little chaos too. So again, needing to be intentional with it. If your pacing is off, you're creating chaos when you don't need to. And then that dynamic, the nuance and emotional. And again, everything that we're talking about here has to be intentional.
She found a boyfriend, not an Italian. She went to the movies with him. She stayed out late. I didn't protest. 2 months ago, he took her for a drive with another boyfriend. They made her drink whiskey, and then they tried to take advantage of her. She resisted. She kept her honor. So they beat her like an animal. When I went to the hospital, her nose was broken. Her jaw was shattered, held together by a wire. She couldn't even weep because of the pain. But I wept. Why did I weep? She was the light of my life. Beautiful girl. Now she will never be beautiful again. Sorry. I went to the police like a good American. These two boys were brought to trial. The judge sentenced them to 3 years in prison and suspended the sentence. They went that very day.
Yeah, took a lot.
God, that's amazing.
Okay, so that, I mean, The Godfather anyway is right. Well, AFI says number 2, they're wrong. But the way that Coppola paces that beginning of the film, first of all, it starts with his first line is the screen is black. And this scene kind of contradicts it's like Beethoven's, the fifth, right? Or was it Furley's, where he's breaking the rule. He breaks the rules of pacing, but we are all absolutely I'm engaged the entire time, right? Because it is intentional, it's measured, it's patient. His pacing is so intentional and deliberate. He's pulling us in. Those takes that's a 6.5 minute scene. That's a 6.5 minute scene. The composition, right, with the way that he's looking at, he's not looking at the camera, he's not breaking the fourth wall, it's just to the right of it, so that he's looking at the dawn and those minimal cuts. There was actually that 6.5 minute opening, no cuts. And for that, we get to sit with those moments, right? And recognize that he's made these decisions. Yeah. So it's not rushing, it's knowing when to breathe. Okay. Next. Okay, so this fragmented dynamic. So Tarantino, this is the guy, right? He is the fragmented dynamic director. If you think about Pulp Fiction, where he fragments time, and we start that story in the middle. It's nonlinear, which is very powerful. Rapid scene changing, and abrupt cuts. So when I said earlier about it being chaotic, chaos doesn't necessarily mean something negative, right? It can, as long as it's intentional, because what you're trying to do is create that emotional response in your audience. That if your pacing is chaotic and controlled, it's poetic, because I said so. Okay. All right, your turn. Other fragmented and dynamic directors or movies, you perhaps, anyone have something that they would want to contribute besides Tarantino? I don't know how we can do this. Who can control if someone wants to raise their hand? And you want to do the
you click participants. Sorry, not participants. You click. Actually, I don't. Just put it in the chat.
Yeah, there you go. Put it in the chat.
You can react. Click the heart react button, and then you can also raise hand there. That's where.
Yeah, or put it in the chat. That's fine. And then
I'll read them out for you, Mimi. Jackie suggests Spike Lee.
Excellent. Absolutely. Yeah.
Coco suggests Christopher Nolan.
Oh, you just hang tight, Coco. I've got Christopher Nolan in here. Mm-hmm. Of course. The king of use of time, right? Excellent.
Zoom user, identity unknown, said Spielberg's opening scene in Private Ryan.
Oh, man. Talk about pacing, right? Like that is torture and gorgeous at the same time. That's the controlled chaos. Absolutely. Outstanding. That's a great one. Love it. Okay. All right. We're going to go on to shot durations. Right. So we got long shots, which can create tension, where that last clip I showed you was an example of it, right? That's a very long shot. We get a rapid cuts, which then create energy. And this.
Thank you, sir. All right, see you later. Thanks.
What are you doing?
One shot.
You're leaving your car?
Watches the car for me. It's easier than leaving it at a garage and waiting. It's a lot quicker that way. You know what I mean? Huh? I like going this way. Better than waiting in line. How you doing? good. What's up? There you go. How you doing, Gino? All right, good, good. Hey, good. Every time I come here, every time you two, don't you work?
Okay, so whoa, no, nope. Sorry. Spinny ball. Okay, there was that one moment I wanted to show. I'm gonna pull it
All
up
right, see you later.
here.
Thanks.
It
What are you
is
doing? You leaving your car?
right there. Okay, you see that with the, oh my gosh, with the guy carrying the case right in front. It is seamless. This is a 3-minute take, this entire thing that Scorsese does, right? We're tracking this entire shot from across the street, down the stairs, through the kitchen, and then eventually, of course, into the club. But this moment is like cinematic genius. Let's see it again. Watch this. Boom. Yeah, that's why he's king, right? One take, 0 cuts. He pulls us through that space, and that, like, those kind of moments that just create awe and tension too, because Karen doesn't know where she's going. He knows where he's going, but Karen doesn't. And so we're experiencing it with her. Okay. Oh, let me go here. All right. So Scorsese and Ballhouse. Why this works. This is all, it happens in real time. And the fact that it's one fluid shot, 3 minutes, she's being pulled through it just like we are. And it creates a little bit of suspense as well. Okay, so now rapid cuts. Yes. Martial arts, this is the action choreography. If you think about like Bruce Lee movies, there was that a series on, I think it was HBO, set in San Francisco, about the Chinese tongs. Incredible, that work. So when you've got action choreography and rapid cuts, why does that work? We're going to look at, hang on one second, cutting on action, and you'll see an example of what I'm talking about. That each cut can be a beat in that percussion. And so when you have cuts, rapid cuts, you are mirroring the emotions and the motion. And then the fight's intensity. Okay. So this is what I want, cutting on action. This is a little different. This is where the action, when I say mask the transition, so if you're going from one shot to a next, the actual action becomes the transition. Okay, so the effect is that continuous, more, yes, invisible storytelling. Yeah, and this is what you do. You cut at the moment of movement. Let me show you an example. This guy's great. Oh.
Now to cut number 5 is cutting on action. This is probably my favorite cut, and one that if understood and applied can take an average looking edit and make it look much more seamless and much more professional. When I'm editing and choosing where to cut on a given clip, I'm always looking for motion or action of my subject. This can be something as simple as the turning of a head or someone standing up, but is more noticeably used on impact scenes like punches or someone running past camera or slamming a door or a splash jumping into water. An example of a time that I often use it is every time at the end of one of my videos I punch the screen, and I always cut as my arm fully extends the punch. If I cut right before the punch or right after the punch, you notice that the cut doesn't look as seamless as when I cut right on the peak of that action. Effectively cutting on action can sometimes be a matter of just a frame or two, so I'm constantly looking for action to cut off of in my clips, and I'm often very nitpicky, testing out several different frames of a clip until I find the best part of that action to cut off of that most seamlessly transitions into the next clip. Moving on to cut number.
Okay. Any questions about this so far? We are about halfway through, I think. Any questions about any of the editing techniques we've talked about so far?
Yes, we have one question in the chat, Mimi. I'll read it out to you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Since we, at least here in the USA, backed off going to the movies and now depend on home theatre systems for our cinema experience, and yet, however, there's a recent surge to return to the movie experience, what can be done as the producer, director, or anyone involved in the film business to find a balance with our editing techniques and cinematography between the two? Or should we just be concentrating on grasping the home theatre audience? Because it was far more effective for Scorsese to make an impact with the opening scene in Goodfellas, the beatdown of Billy Bats, and that iconic scene at the Copa. Because it was big screen.
That's a really great question. That if we, who are you marketing to, right? Are you marketing to, and if your goal is to reach the widest audience and people are watching films on their widescreen TVs in their living rooms with distractions and their phones are right there and, you know, the dog, or you get up, whatever, then yes, committing to those long scenes, those long shots, is probably not the best thing for that audience. So it's, you know, when I'm teaching writing, the two things I tell people you have to think about is purpose and audience. Those are the two primary things that you want to really focus on. There are others, but those are the primary. So if you know who you're creating for and why, that's going to help you make your decision. If your goal is to reach the largest audience and to sell the most, then shortcuts are probably better. If your goal is to explore different techniques and styles, even within one piece, then that's going to inform how you produce your work. But it's personal. I don't know that I can tell you how to make that decision. That's something that you have to decide for yourself, as a filmmaker and someone who's also wanting to earn some money, you know? Yeah.
So I'll just add to that, Mimi, a comment in the chat from Michael, based on his experience working with Mr. Beast. Obviously, this is on a YouTube channel, so you know your audience may be different, but nicer cameras performed less well. And in the first 3 minutes, shorter cuts were more effective, and then you could have longer cuts that would breathe more to bring in the connection and the interest. And all of this was learned through testing. Try it, put it out there, see what the reaction is, iterate, go again. And that's really the key.
Absolutely, Erica. Thank you for that last part. I mean, of course, Michael's experience with Mr. Beast is, you know, so valuable. And, but I think that your point about experimenting is really, really important, right? Because you now have opportunity to kind of play around with stuff, and it's going to change because Sashva is so incredible at what he does. He is constantly improving Movie Machine. And so you're going to find that even like 2 weeks into a project, you can do things that you couldn't 2 weeks ago. And so getting comfortable with the idea of experimentation, start with short form, right? Start with some short form stuff and create episodes, create 3-minute, 5-minute episodes and switch it up a little bit. But I love that. Okay. All right. So next we're going to start talking about montage. Okay. You're gonna go there. All right, so montage. Yeah. Okay, so we've got multiple shots together to compress time. And of course, the whole goal is always to tell a story in as short a time as possible. That's right? So this is probably the, wait, what's happening?
Keeping everything you love
Sorry, you need to close down.
That's real magic.
Top.
Xfinity. Imagine that.
What am I? Okay. There we go.
Ah, there we go.
YouTube.
You're gonna kill him!
Okay, let me pause there. Do you see different kinds of, I mean, this dolly shot's gorgeous, right? You see different editing techniques within this montage. We got reaction, we've got a lot of cuts, we've got long shots, we've got this close up, right? He's integrating all of these shots. That's a really beautiful shot. Are you mad because I ended it before he runs up the stairs? Here, let me show it. I'll go there. Anyone been to Philadelphia? See that statue? It's there. Okay, so on to our next, which is, Jonathan, you'll be happy about this. We're doing sound design. Now, who was hang on a second, the master, well, this film, Psycho, forced, because of the censors, it forced Hitchcock to make decisions that actually ended up really helping the film become more horrific. But music and sound are different, right? Sound editing is invisible in terms of pacing. But I want to show you this scene and listen to this sound, okay? Just about everything we hear is off screen, aside from the closing of the door. The flushing of the toilet is off, opening the paper around the package. So it's up to us to actually imagine what she's doing just based on the sound. And there's no music. Fabulous dramatic irony there. So we go, what is it, until, is it 58 seconds? That's when the music comes in. So his choice to have it just be ambient sound, all of the sounds that you hear in the background is intentional, it's deliberate, and it pulls us into that scene, and it actually aids in the suspense. Okay, music as pacing. Who knows? That's it, right? And to this day, I think anyone who will go into the ocean and make a joke, all you have to do are 2 notes. That's all you need. Genius. That repetition, right? And then the silence between the notes. Let's hear it again. Minor keys. So this is also an example of the rhythm, the pacing, and the tempo is all coming through this music. I would even think that he could have extended the silence between the notes a little bit more, but it's brilliant. Okay. So now we're going to talk a little bit about slow motion and time manipulation. The use of slow motion. I mean, if you've ever seen any Vin Diesel movie, then you'll understand the power of slow motion for impact, beauty, and horror, right? If you have horror with slow motion, it creates dread. Slow motion says, this matters, watch. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about some case studies. The first one I want to talk about is Inception. Don't have clips from this, but I'm hoping that everyone has seen this film, and hopefully more than once, because it takes more than one viewing to really understand it. But his editing is so precise. And then what he does is create like continuity, but also you're disoriented because it's that dream within the dream structure. And so the images are familiar and beautiful, but also a little weird. And then his cuts also take you, like that scene where they're in Paris, you're all of a sudden with them. And that's because that's how dreams happen. You show up in the middle of a dream, right? So he's this simultaneity and disorientation, and then those lines between reality and illusion when he's dealing with the dreams. Okay. Sixth Sense, that's another great one, right? Subtlety and misdirection. And I know M. Night Shyamalan said that he thought that, okay, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen this movie. Okay. turn your audio, turn your volume off. He thought that that there were a lot of clues in the film to give away that Bruce Willis is dead. He's like, he wore the same outfit every time, right? There were like all these little clues, but the oops, sorry, what's that?
Ella Rollins is coming in. I'm going to open.
Okay, bienvenidos. All right, so that, right, the masterpiece of that subtlety and misdirection when he keeps you thinking that Bruce Willis is really just trying to help solve this murder. Okie dokie. Final notes. I said this at the beginning, and I want to reiterate: you have to be intentional about pacing. If you just leave it up to, hopefully you're the editor as well, but if you have an editor, there has to be intention in the pacing, right? And remember that your cuts guide the emotion. What does my story need? What rhythm does this moment deserve? All right, so your turn. So I want you all to think of a story that you're telling and ask yourself some questions. What does my story need? What rhythm does the moment deserve? When you are doing your own storytelling. And this is also something, if you want, we can talk about how to translate it from prose, if you're a prose writer, fiction, to screen, and what techniques you can use as a filmmaker. I don't know what the breakdown is in the room of difference between storytellers who are fiction writers versus filmmakers, but there are things that we do as storytellers in writing that are really different than storytellers on screen. So I'd be happy to talk a little bit about that as well. Thank you. So that is it from me. I know I'm early. I thought I was going to be over because of all my clips. So if you'd like, we could open it to some Q&A if you want to talk about the transition between writing for a reader versus writing for a viewer.
As always, questions in the chat and we'll bring them up. So Patrick asks, what is the fine line between the 15-second Instagram crowd that down dialogue and shepherding the audience into proper attention spans where the audience is engaged? Short attention-grabbing scenes, then playing out longer dramatic scenes for impact, or would you recommend something else? How do we curate them from that short attention span to pay attention and engage with a longer work? Patrick asks, should we start with short attention-grabbing scenes and then play out longer dramatic scenes, or what would you suggest?
I mean, I think that there are different audiences. If someone is a TikTok and Instagram fanatic, then that's tough. That's just where their audience is, right? I think that if you're going to target people who enjoy longer form content, then that's what you do. Don't play to an audience that doesn't appeal to you. You can't be everything to everyone. So you got to pick, you just decide who is your target audience and why. The why is really important, right? The why helps you know whether you are in it for art's sake, to make as much money, or somewhere in between. So if you think about your why, then I think that can help. And the other thing is, if you produce good content, people are going to watch it. Okay. That's just the truth. And yes, of course, there is an entire segment of the population that lives on 4 minutes or less. But there's not a whole lot you can do about the 4-minute or less group. So just make your art and make it awesome, really. Put it out there and let people decide. That's part of the beauty of Creatorwood, is that we have this platform where people can access, Yeah.
So maybe next question comes from Marnie. She says that she has discovered that where her book starts, or her novel, maybe is not the same starting point that her film should have. The book
Right.
starts with a young girl's life up to an accident point. She's thinking that perhaps the film needs to start with the accident and then weave the backstory through. How do you do that backstory completely? How do you edit to fix this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, two things. When you're writing a script, you include information that either drives the plot or develops a character. If it doesn't do one of those two things, it doesn't belong in your script. If the backstory for why the accident has happened, if that's part of it, okay. Then maybe there's room for it in flashback. If you watch The Queen's Gambit, they do a great job in that, referencing back to her early life, to her childhood with her mom before the accident. So flashbacks are really helpful. That's also an 8-episode series. If you're planning on doing a 90 to 120 minute film, then maybe it's reference, or maybe it's also just for the actor who ends up playing, or the AI, if you do this on Creatorwood, to understand their motivation. But yeah, I definitely think that a segment of a child's life leading up to the accident is probably not necessary for film, unless it's essential to the plot or to her character development.
Thanks, Mimi. And
You're
another
welcome, Erica.
question is about transitions. How do you prompt AI, or how do you work with AI to get transitions between shots, between scenes? And how is that different from what you do in the film world?
Great. That's a great question, because it is different. So right now you have start frames and end frames. And Sashfro, maybe you can speak to this as well. You can also adjust shot length so that it's like 4 seconds, 8 seconds. You can feed information into the movie machine and tell your AI buddy that you want a slow transition. When you actually edit it and you are looking at the different clips, you can crossfade, you can do the different things like that. Sasha, you want to lean in on this a little bit, honey?
I think that's generally right. I mean, I think a lot of these things can happen.
Can I just stop you there, Sashba, and ask you to come closer to the microphone and speak louder, please?
Is this better?
Yes.
I think that's pretty much right. I mean, a lot of this can just happen. Again, a lot of this is like experimentation. So generate and then see what's wrong, tweak, regenerate, fix in post. Like, as we have come to learn very quickly, you will also learn very quickly that, as Mimi puts it, which is absolutely correct, sometimes these things are unexpected. Like, you're not exactly sure what's going to come out. And so, run it and then see what's wrong and then fix it and then retry it. And then, when you get to a place where you're approximately happy, fix it in post.
Yeah, fix it in post. That's a production phrase that works across all media. So I do think that, in terms of transitions, you'll have access to, to fades, you'll have access to cuts, you'll have access to traditional transitions that you're used to as a filmmaker. It's going to mimic, looking at Avid or Premiere or whatever, or if you're old like me, Final Cut Pro from back in the day. What else? Steven, you like that?
One other thing that's interesting about this is actually some new video models are coming out that do cuts natively. And so you can actually describe in a single shot that you want 4 cuts. So within 8 seconds, it can actually do 4 cuts for you. Like no promise on quality yet. We have to test it out, but that is a real possibility. It's not out of the question. If that helps, take some of the bearing off you.
Yeah, to even just write it right in the prompt to the AI. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. What else?
So Trish asks about the Ken Burns effect, 4 shots in a scene.
iMovie. Ken Burns effect in iMovie is like masterful. Are you asking if you can use Ken Burns effect in Movie Machine, or I'm curious what the question is.
All right, this is easier. Yeah, I was just asking if the Ken Burns effect was one of the transitions, or do special effects go on to shots in? Like, can you do special effects in Movie Magic yet? Like flashing lightning from fingertips or something like that. Does that happen? Does it generate and create that stuff?
Yeah, as long as you're using animation and anime. Can we do it in photorealistic yet?
Yep.
Yep. Boom. There you go.
Okay.
That's new to me.
Photorealism is a style. It doesn't actually require realism of the actions, thankfully.
Right. Yeah.
All right.
So it will generate effects as well as shots and images and the transitions.
The other thing is we don't build in shots right now. We don't build in like transition shots right now, but you can just, add them and describe what you want. Like there's we have a project we're working on right now where the opening is like a voiceover with like a fade into black and then like text on screen. Like these things are, we'll do just fine with it. So just if you need a transition, you can just create a new shot in your storyboard, create the frame and then animate it via natural language.
So there aren't transitions in the editor yet. It's all cuts. Or is there a transition in between the two shots, like a dissolve or picture-in-picture effect or something like that create that transition, like zoom in, zoom out?
Not yet. We're still working on the editor.
Okay. Yeah. We don't seem to have any more questions in the chat, Mimi. So thank you so much for your insights.
You're so welcome.
Oh, I am sorry. We have one more question from Jonathan. Do you have a general formula or sense of contrast and relief when editing for the overall that would be analogous to shaping a play that you rely on? Or is it all instinct? Do you have a pattern for that?
Do I personally, or do filmmakers?
I think it's personally for your advice to us as working in this new medium. What would you recommend for the contrast and relief to build into the structure?
You're going to hate this. You have to play with it. I know that people keep saying like you got to play with it, but I don't think that there's a formula that I can give you. First of all, I wouldn't ever want to assume that I could write a formula and have it be an artistically, universal way to do something. It also depends on the style, the preset that you're using, because film noir is going to be a little different than anime or comic book, right? Like they come with their own feelings, and the tone, the mood of the piece is going to also be influenced by the style. So, it is actually, I think a lot of it is creative intuition and knowing in the moment that something feels right because you know your story better than anyone else. You know your characters. You have like just a level of connection that you're gonna know. You're just gonna know. Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think that's everything.
Editors feel timing. Absolutely. Editors feel timing, and you do. Storytellers feel timing, right? Yes.
And this is why it may be that editors for AI movies becomes a profession in its own right, separate from the storyteller, separate from the AI director, because there is a different skill set there as well. So we can all learn, but then sometimes it's just easier to find the person who already knows.
Definitely.
Okay.
And I'll write the training for it.
Excellent.
All right.
Mimi, thank you
Well,
so much
yeah,
for
you're
your
so
insights
welcome.
to
Of
all of
course.
this.
Welcome.
Pacing, rhythm, and understanding the heartbeat of the story.